I am fascinated by people's life journeys, especially the life journeys of entrepreneurs and professionals. Let me tell you about one of them. His name was Joe. Joe went to college, graduated from college, got his master's in business administration, and became a certified public accountant. He dreamed of landing a gig one day at a large, nationally recognized accounting firm, and he was successful at that. Moved up the ranks in a short period of time and billed more and more hours. His income began to grow. Um, but Joe eventually had something that happens in everybody's life. Shortly after marriage, he has his first child, and he realizes that the bulk of responsibility had to shift to either he or his wife. He and his wife made a decision that she would leave her job and become the primary caretaker, and he would be the primary moneymaker. And he was good at it. But unfortunately, to keep up that demand and to keep up his aspirations, less and less time was spent at home. In fact, Joe had to forego a family vacation that he was looking for because a critical issue had come up with one of the clients that he was working with. And when that happened, one night, Joe decided to had a decision that he had to confront. And that was he going to continue on this career path, or was he going to go in a slightly different direction? The stress was beginning to mount, and he had a hard conversation, and he and his wife decided to take a bold move, a bold risk, and he was going to start his own accounting firm. He was going to launch out on his own. He actually built a business plan, and the business plan sounded a lot like this. I am going to serve my clients with dedication and accessibility, and I'm going to solve their problems. And if I do that very well, I can serve fewer clients and provide exceptional care. Joe wrote down, I actually can bill less hours and make more money. It was a brilliant decision, and he launched. And he was so happy the day he landed his first client, took great care of that client. That client valued him and respected him so much, referred two more clients to him, and it was off to the races. His practice was beginning to grow. And he noticed that he was, in his desire to honor his commitment, more and more clients required more and more time. And so he had to hire more and more talent. It started with a receptionist and then a bookkeeper. And eventually he got frustrated managing these people. Some would come, some would go. Not all of them had the same values or dedication that he had to serving the clients well. And the referrals kept coming, and the time demands kept increasing. And eventually there was another vacation that he had to skip out on, a spring break that he couldn't participate in. And he found himself very frustrated, and he decided that the time had come and he had grown to the point where he needed to hire another CPA. His firm was really taking off, and so he brought in another CPA, and he found that CPA that he hired worked very hard themselves. And that CPA, when 5 o'clock would hit, they wouldn't leave. And so Joe couldn't leave before they left. And eventually the business continued to grow, and so his associate wouldn't leave in 5:30, and then it was 6:30, and Joe found himself staying there till 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, because he wasn't going to be outperformed or outworked by any member of his team or his staff. And it was at that moment that Joe had to make a very critical decision. He had started his practice, but he realized that if his practice continued to grow the way that it was growing, it was unsustainable. He realized that he needed to shift his role within the practice, and rather than just being a brilliant technician, he had to become an entrepreneur. He realized that he needed to develop new skill sets, such as delegating, such as creating processes, learning how to fully utilize and implement technology, how to sell systems and processes so that they came together, that people and processes served clients with a standard of excellence that he had come to demand of himself. And it worked. He had to learn how to market because there were more mouths to feed. But unfortunately, those mouths to feed became a source of stress on him. And he began racing harder and harder as the entrepreneur to grow the practice to the point where it was producing profits without him necessarily having to run so hard or run so fast or work so hard. And he did it. He figured it out. And eventually he was leading a kind of practice that he was proud of, but it was a little boring. But every now and then, the boredom was interrupted with sheer chaos. One year, when Joe was actually on the family vacation that a couple of times in the past he had to skip out on, his phone started buzzing because emails were coming through because two of his employees just did something that was sloppy. It wasn't really thought out well, or didn't reflect the standard of excellence that he had set in serving his clients well. And it was on that vacation that Joe began to feel the pull and the invitation to once again return to what he once knew. Why don't you just scale back and become the brilliant technician you once were? The problem with that is that Joe wasn't a young person anymore. Joe was a little older and wasn't finding that idea all that attractive. More importantly, he wasn't sure that he had the energy to sustain that kind of pace. And so while on vacation, Joe realized that he had to confront another decision. And he made the decision to become what I consider to be the entrepreneurial leader. And that decision to become the entrepreneurial leader is not really a decision to just get better at your processes or just simply hire better people or pay them more. What Joe realized he needed to learn was how to become a leader of leaders, not just a leader of other technicians. See, when you start the business, you want to be the brilliant technician. When you grow the business, you want to learn how to manage other brilliant technicians. But if you really want to sustain a long-term growing business, at some point, you have to make the decision that you're going to attract and invest in and develop a multiplicity of leaders. And for that to happen, you yourself have to become more invested in your own leadership growth and your own leadership development. And he made that decision. He started to expect different things, and he prioritized their learning and their development, that they not only just mastered the art of their craft of being bookkeepers and accountants and receptionists, but they learned how to invite people to do and to be more than they ever could have imagined. And eventually, Joe began to see the finish line. And he realized that by growing leaders, he created an opportunity to create a legacy business that he eventually sold to the next generation of leaders that he had cultivated and invested in. And he was about to complete what I call the life journey or the life cycle of an entrepreneurial leader. You start your business, you grow your business, and eventually you go from your business. Joe was able to retire at a younger age than he initially imagined, primarily because his business had become an asset that other people were willing to pay him for the privilege of leading it into the future. And so Joe was able to take the clients that he had cultivated, the businesses that he had helped assist with accounting services, and allow them to be served by the values that drove him forward for years to come. And he was able to enjoy not only his family, but his grandchildren as well. It's the dream of every business leader to be able to start, grow, and go from your business. But to do it, you have to face some critical decisions. You have to be willing to let go of being the brilliant technician. And you have to, at some point, move through the process of becoming the entrepreneur to becoming an entrepreneurial leader.